So if you're a barber or a barbershop owner and you're not sure which pay structure to go with, whether it's booth rent or commission, then this video is for you. There's so many different structures out there and so many people do it different ways that I wanted to make this video to really break down which one you should be thinking about, the pros and cons of each, the main differences. So if you're a barber that's looking for a job in a new shop, or if you're a barbershop owner, then this video is for you. I've owned a barbershop since 2015, and I run a free group online called the Barber Mastermind, and it's one of the questions that comes up a lot, which is why I wanted to make this video. A lot of people are just starting out in the barber industry and they're not sure where they should go, whether it's booth rent or commission. And this is why I wanted to make this video, to really clear it up. So I think first we should get into what are the different pay structures and the differences in between each. There's basically 3 different pay structures out there, the 3 main buckets, and then there are shops that are in between, and we're gonna cover all of that in this video. So I'm gonna start by putting everything on the board. So there's 3 main pay structures out there. There's the booth rental, chair rental, or even suites. I'm gonna lump in here for that. And then there's commission-based, and then there's hourly. And then there's actually in between, which we'll get into in a second. So I'm gonna start with booth/chair rental or suites. The way booth rental works is you pay the owner a set rate, whatever it is. They can choose the rate based on whatever they want. And it's usually broken down weekly. Everybody does it a little bit differently, but the most common way that I see this work is that it's broken down per week. So let's say, for example, you go to a shop and it's a booth rental or a chair rental space, or even a suite, and you have to pay the owner $200 a week. And for that, you get the right to use the chair while you're there. That's probably one of the main things to consider with booth rental, which I'm just gonna refer to this as booth rental, but keep in mind I'm also talking about chair rental and suites, is like, what do you get with that? But for the majority of barbershops, you're at least gonna get the right to use that chair while you're there. You're gonna get a chair. So that's one of the benefits of using this. And then you have so your costs are relatively fixed with this model because you either pay the owner weekly or some places do monthly. But basically that's gonna be the majority of your cost for running your business. And you get to keep everything you make after this. And the owner, you could get lucky and you might find a booth rental or suite owner that does marketing with you, but that's one of the main things that you want to figure out is when you're talking to one owner that runs a barbershop. This is, what do I get in exchange for this rent? Are they going to promote you? Is anything supplied? But I would say that in a majority of cases that I've seen, you're basically just getting a chair. The owner might promote you and market you, but you just have to keep in mind that the owner isn't really incentivized to make sure that you're busy, because it's really like real estate. There's so many chairs in the shop, and the only concern, because of the way the business model is structured, they're really just worried about making sure that the chair is full. There's a barber paying to use that chair. In a lot of cases, not in every case, but that is how they make money, is not if you are cutting hair, but if the chair is occupied. Now, some owners are smart and they realize, well, they can't pay me my rent unless they're busy, so they do a little bit of promotion or teach you how to do it so that you can fill your chair and stay busy. That way you can continue to pay them. However, in my experience, that's pretty rare to find an owner that's willing to do that. Most booth rent shop owners that I've seen are just concerned about filling the chair, and the barber is basically on their own. Now, with commission, there is no set rate. So there is no cost with commission. You basically get paid for every haircut or every service that you do, or every product that you sell. So the benefit of this one is that there is no fixed cost, and you get to work there, and the more hair you cut, the more money you make. This is a pretty simple model to understand. So you go to a place where it's commission-based, and you get probably a percentage of what you produce, and that percentage is basically up to the owner. So I've seen it as low as maybe 10% is what goes to the barber, and I've seen it go as high as 80%. So there's a huge range here, and this is one of the main issues of being a barbershop owner, is that you have people that are out there paying this end of the scale, and if you can't afford to pay people that can be a challenge to compete with that for talent-wise. But this is basically the main range that I see. This is a huge range, but you can expect, I think, that in a lot of cases, if you're going to a commission-based shop, inquiring about a job, the part that you earn is going to be somewhere most likely in this range. And so that's mainly how commission works. You start in, you don't have any fixed cost. You get a chair too, and they may even give you some supplies. But again, this is just like with the booth rental. You want to ask the owner, like, what is included with the commission? Because you don't have a fixed cost, but your cost is actually, it's a variable. So the more, if you're, let's say it's just for the simple math, if you're paying 50%, if the commission is 50%, and you do $1,000 in services, so you paid the owner basically $500 for that week. And this is usually weekly that is paid out, but every place is different. So it might be bi-weekly, but basically paid the owner $500. If it's 50% commission, you did $1,000 in sales. So then the question is, well, what do you get for that? So I think it's really important to consider with all of these structures, what is it that I'm getting in return for what I'm costing? It may not be a direct cost, it could be an opportunity cost, but important thing to consider with commission, regardless of the rate, what are you getting, right? Because you might want to go with a lower rate if it means that you are getting a lot in return. We can get into that later. And then the last one here is hourly, which there is a set rate. And that rate is usually dependent on it's really very dependent on the owner and the state you're in, whatever the minimum wage is. But this one, you're almost guaranteed that you're going to be a W-2 employee. There probably are some shops out there that don't classify their people as employees, but pay them hourly. And as long as they're doing it the right way, it's fine. But basically, as an employee, you will probably never make less than the minimum wage. So let's just say the minimum wage is, $15 an hour. So that would be the least you would ever make, as long as you are at work, right? So as you can start to see now, you might be starting to get an idea based on where you're at, which one is more appealing to you, because over here, you have to pay this rent, whether you're busy or slow, whether you were sick, whether you didn't work that week. It's just like signing a lease at an apartment or a commercial lease. The landlord does not care usually if you didn't make any money. You still got to pay the rent. Commission, the costs go up and down, and so does your pay. But there is no set cost, but there's also no set rate. So it could be that what you make could be zero if you have a slow day. And then over here, if you're an employee at least, and hopefully you will never make less than what the minimum wage is for your state, or the federal minimum wage if you're in the US. And then, so those are the main, in terms of the pay structures, that's how they break down. But there's also actually in between, which can make it a little bit more interesting. You might find that there's a combination of these out there as well. So you might have a barbershop owner who runs a booth rental or chair rental model. They will start you out on commission. So you start here, and then once you get to that point where you've built up enough to where you can afford the set rate, then they might move you over here. And you also have places that may start you hourly, and then once you hit a certain level, you can earn commission. So there's actually, this isn't all of the pay structures out there that exist. You could start here and end up over here in some places, or start here and end up there. These are the main buckets, but you can probably find places that are doing some combination of these. So now I want to get into a little bit of the pros and cons of each structure. So let's talk about booth rental first. So we're going to talk about the pros. So one of the pros of booth rental is that you basically have full control over your schedule and your pricing. So control. So in this model, and by the way, if you are on booth rental, it's most likely that you're going to be classified as an independent contractor. And this one could go either way. You can be classified either as a 1099 independent contractor, or you could be a W-2 employee. But basically, booth or chair rental, you have full control, or you're supposed to, over your schedule and your pricing. So with booth rental too, your costs are fixed. Most expenses are going to be here, your rent, and then you're going to have your supplies and everything, but everything after that you can keep. You don't have to split anything with the owner. That's the benefit of this. Now with commission, I made another video that breaks down the difference between 1099 independent contractor versus an employee. So definitely check that out. I'm not going to get into that in this video because there's a lot of barbershop owners out there that operate a commission-based shop that are operating illegally, because if you are telling people when to be there and what to charge, then you are treating them like an employee, but you're paying them like a 1099. So keep that in mind when you're talking to these barbershop owners. If they're giving you a 1099 at the end of the year to file your taxes, but they're telling you when to be there and how much to charge, they're misclassifying you. So check that video out if you want to learn more about that. But technically, so if you're a 1099, which in my experience, a lot of barbershops that I see that are pure commission-based are operating illegally. And that's one of the main frustrations of being a barbershop owner, because if you have somebody treating their people hourly but paying them higher because they can afford it, you don't have that employee tax and all the benefits, then it's very difficult to compete with that as an owner. But let's just say in this example that you are treating your people, if you're an owner, the right way, you're classifying them the right way. So you would have, if you were truly being treated like a 1099 independent contractor, then you would have the same benefits because you would have control over your schedule and your pricing. And then there are no fixed cost. So if you had a slow day or even a slow week, or you took off that week, you don't actually owe the owner anything. So that's the nice thing about this one. There's basically no risk. So you are going in here and you get paid for every service you do, for every client you see. But if you have a slow day or a slow week or a slow month, then you make less, but you don't have to pay the owner anything, right? And that's the benefit of this structure. And the more, if you are busy, the more you do, the more you make. And then some of the pros of hourly are you're always going to get paid on hourly, because as long as and usually if you're hourly pay, the owner is going to ask you to clock in and clock out, so that way they can keep track of your hours. So when you clock in, whether you're cutting hair or you're folding towels or you're sweeping hair, you're getting paid for that. So that's the benefit of the hourly, is that you'll never make less than whatever the minimum wage is at that time. And then there's also the potential for benefits. So now you can start to get maybe a clearer picture of which is the best structure for you. Because if you want control over your schedule and your pricing, and you want to keep all your earnings, then maybe this is the best structure for you. But if you aren't sure if you can meet those fixed costs consistently every single week, then you may want to consider one of these. And if you are looking for benefits, healthcare, dental, 401k, paid time off, those are some of the ones that we offer, you probably need to be at one of these, right? If that's important to you. So now let's get into a little bit of the cons. But your costs are fixed, so that's a pro, but it can also be a con, because regardless of what you make, even if you made nothing that week, you still have to pay the owner in a lot of cases. Some owners might give you a break. Maybe it'll be lower in the beginning, but regardless of what you make, you have to pay this cost, just like a lease. So that's one of the cons. And then you are also going to be responsible, and I think this is a big one that a lot of people don't realize, is that you're responsible for marketing yourself. You're responsible for all of the business, everything. You are running your own business when you are on booth or chair rental or doing your own suite. So if you don't know how to fill your chair and you don't know anything about running a business, you may want to reconsider doing booth rent, because a lot of people start here, right? And they want to make this jump, but they don't have these skills So maybe they start off great. The first week, the first month, the first even 6 months are awesome. And then they start to notice that the amount of money that they're making starts to get closer to where they were at here. And if it can even go start lower, because one of the most important things in our business is retention. And even if you have really high retention, it's never going to be 100%. So you have to have a way of replacing those clients that you lose, which is marketing. And then you have to be running your business. So which is like all the accounting, all of the scheduling software. You have to keep up with supplies. All of your supplies are your responsibility now. If you sell products, you got to make sure you keep those in stock. So all of that comes with booth/chair rental. And then it is possible with booth rental and chair rental, it is actually possible to go negative in your earnings, because if you are paying the owner $200 a week, we'll say, and you made $100 that week, then you actually lost money. So this is the only one of these three structures where it's possible to actually lose money. So that's why I think you really have to go back to this and say, can I consistently afford every single week, week after week, to fill my schedule? Because if I can't, then you may want to consider being over here. Because if you don't know how to market yourself, and you don't know how to fill your schedule, you could potentially lose money, right? Almost there. Now let's get into some of the cons for commission. One of the biggest cons when it comes to commission is that you can actually make $0, which if you're having a slow day, very possible. In our business, typically there's seasons, busy months, there's busy weeks and busy days. So if you're working on a Tuesday and you've done no haircuts all day, then your earnings is 0, unless you're hourly, right? But it's if you're pure commission based, just nothing, there's no set rate, then your earnings are 0. And if you are being classified as a 1099, then there are no benefits. And usually, the reason why there are no benefits is because you're getting on the higher end of this scale, and the owner can't afford to give you benefits, right? That's it. And you also, if you're being classified as a 1099 and you're getting commission, just pure commission, you will probably not get benefits, and you are going to be responsible for your own taxes, which is also the case over here. So you're gonna get a bigger check because nothing's getting taken out because you're a 1099, but you're gonna have to pay that back when you go to file your taxes. Yes, you can write off your tools and marketing and whatever, but you are still responsible for your own taxes. Whether you write stuff off or not, it's up to you, but you are responsible. The owner is not responsible for paying your taxes if you're a 1099. It's your responsibility. So you might get a big check, but if you don't put some money aside for taxes, when tax time comes around and you don't have a lot of write-offs, you're going to be screwed. And if you do write a lot of stuff off, and you go to buy a house, they're going to deny you because you're not making enough money on paper, right? So you can't write off a bunch of stuff and then go to buy a house and get approved. It just doesn't work that way. You have to show proof of income, and that's one of the main benefits of being a W-2 employee, is that it's really easy to prove your income. You're like, here's my W-2, and you already paid taxes out of it, so I'm going to get into that. So when you're on commission, it is possible to make $0 an hour. There's usually no benefits unless you are classified as a W-2. And if you're a 1099, you're going to have to be responsible for your own taxes. And depending on the setup for your shop, you may even have to be responsible for your own supplies. And I will also lump in here that your income is going to be variable when you're on commission. So it's going to be very unpredictable. Like one week you might do really well. The next week you're like, I made almost nothing this week. So it's going to be constantly going up and down. It's also the same over here unless you are really good at marketing and the business side of things, that both of these are variable. Now, it could also mean that you have a virtually unlimited earning potential if you know these things, but you keep that in mind is that if you're looking for stability, these might not be the best route for you. If you need to make a certain amount of money every single week, every single month, it's going to be harder to do that with this structure. unless you have a great owner, right? And then you might be responsible for your own supplies, depending on how the shop's set up. Again, these are the things that you want to cover in the interview. So I'm paying this much per week. What do I get in return? Some of these things might all be gone depending on the shop owner, right? Because maybe if you're a W-2 and you have the ability to earn commission, then all of these things could go away because you always have that set rate to fall back on. So some of the cons of hourly is you could potentially make less money on hourly depending on where you're at. So if you are really crazy busy all the time, then you may make more over here or over here. And as a hourly employee, you're basically going to have no control, no say in anything. You're an employee and the owner sets the rules. So you have to do the haircut according to the way they say it and within the time that you're given, and you have to charge the prices that are advertised. So you have no control over that, or very little control. Hopefully it's starting to get a little bit clearer now of which one is better for you and what's important to you. So if you really want control, then you're going to be on one of these two, right? Or somewhere in the middle. And if you don't care about that and you care about the benefits more, then you may want to be over here in one of these two. So if you are new to the industry, let's talk about what you need to have to be a successful barber based on what I've seen work. So to be a successful barber, you need skills. That's basically what it comes down to. You need to know how to be able to cut hair. You need to know how to be able to retain clients, customer service, marketing. And if you have those things, then one of these two structures may be better for you. If you don't know how to fill your own chair, here's the test. If you actually know how to fill your own chair, then you should be able to leave where you're at now, go to a completely new city, and become fully booked in 3 to 6 months. If you can't do that, then you probably don't have the skill of marketing, right? A lot of people think, and this is the huge mistake that I see people make all the time. They think that just because they're busy where they are, that they can leave and go do a booth rent or chair model or suite model, and that they're gonna make more money. But the reality is that you're gonna probably lose half your clients when you leave that shop that you're at, and then you're gonna continue to lose more because retention is never gonna be 100%. So you're gonna continue to lose more, and if you don't know how to market yourself, and you don't have a way of replacing those people that you're losing, then you're gonna start making less money than if you would have just stayed here. And it's also, now you have to worry about that, whereas before, one of the benefits of being on hourly or commission is that the owner is highly incentivized to make sure you stay busy. Because if you're commission-based, the owner probably cares a little bit less that you're busy. Of course, they're going to make a lot more money if you are busy, but there's no fix. They don't have to pay you if you're not busy on commission. Where hourly, you definitely have to pay them. So they are absolutely going to try really hard to make sure that you're busy, because there's that rate, which is the most expensive cost in our business. If you're running a hourly or commission-based shop, labor is going to be your biggest cost. So you're going to want to get a return on your investment as an owner by making sure that your people are staying busy. So hourly is going to be the most strongly associated with, I think, how hard the owner is trying to keep you busy. Where commission, maybe a little bit less, and over here, it's going to be virtually zero, unless you get lucky and find an awesome booth rental owner that actually cares that you're busy. But in most cases, they just make money if you are paying them rent. But what you need to know in order to be a successful barber is marketing. You need to know how to cut hair. You need to know how to retain clients. You need to know how to market yourself. And if you know how to do those things, then go over here. If you don't, then you should probably be over here, and most likely over here, right? Because if you are new to the industry, you probably don't know how to cut hair yet. You probably don't know anything about customer service, marketing, retention. And if you go to one of these places that does commission, hourly, or a combination of the two, then they might actually teach you how to do that. And these places are usually really busy, right? Because this is a really risky business model to do as an owner. So these places are usually really, really busy. So you get lots of practice. So you learn how to cut hair. you learn how to market yourself, you learn how to retain clients, and you get paid to do it based on hourly and on commission, where you don't get paid to get better based on this model here. So you actually get paid to learn when you're on hourly. You get paid to learn these skills. Same with commission, because some places do a combination of the both. So if you get a set hourly rate, but if you hit a certain point in sales, it switches to commission. So I think if you're new to the industry, you should strongly be considering here. I would not advise you, if you're new to cutting hair, if you're new to being a barber, to go here. I think that's a huge mistake. You can get paid to learn over here, and ultimately, if you still want to do this, it will set you up for success in the long run if you go here and learn how to be a barber and then make that transition. Another one of the cons is this word is tossed around a lot lately, but work-life balance. If you are a booth rental or a commission-based barber, this may be a little bit harder, this work-life balance, because there are no benefits. Then you don't make money unless you cut hair. Where if you are at an hourly-based shop and you are earning paid time off, then it's possible that you can get paid even if you're not cutting hair, which is not possible in this structure unless you're the owner. So if you care about work-life balance, then you probably want to be here. If you want to be able to take time off, if you're off of work and you just want to be off, and you want to be probably an employee or commission-based, because if you're here, then you're still dealing with, even if you're not at the shop, your chances are you're still going to be dealing with the business aspect of things. Probably not going to be doing your taxes and reconciling your bank accounts in the middle of a haircut. You're going to have to do that stuff at home on your off time. So if you don't want to have to worry about that stuff, if you're looking to get a job at a shop, then the most important thing to consider, I think, is what's included with whatever the pay is. And I strongly recommend that if you are new, you probably go over somewhere. If you know what you're doing, you have a good amount of clientele, and you know how to get more, then maybe consider this over here. And at a booth rental place, keep in mind that if you are insistent on doing this, keep in mind that you want to ask what's included with the rent. Here, you just want to figure out what's the percentage offered. Me personally, when I started cutting hair, I didn't care what the percentage was. I started here, and I didn't choose the shop based on the commission, though. I chose it based on the main thing, I think, is where can I learn the most skills? So I tried to find the busiest barbershop I could, and it just so happened to be commission-based, but that's not why I chose it. I actually tried to get a job originally when I got out of school at Supercuts and Sport Clips, but they weren't hiring barbers at the time. So because I wanted to go there because of this, and I knew I was going to get the skills by working there just because of the volume of clients that was coming in. So if you're talking to a booth rent shop owner, you want to talk about what's the rent, what's included, is there a walk-in traffic in case you do start to lose clients and you're not able to replace them far enough, what's the reputation of the shop like, because that's really important consideration if you are going to a booth rent shop, because your marketing is basically going to be almost non-existent, right, if in a booth rent shop. There are some exceptions to that, of course. And then if you're at a commission shop, obviously you want to try to find out what's the rate and what's included in that. I think that's a more important question than actually what the commission rate is what do I get in return for the commission that I'm paying out to the owner? And of course, if it's pure commission, meaning there's no base, there's no hourly as a fallback, then you definitely want to make sure that you're going to a really, really busy shop, because it is possible that you would make less on commission than you would if you were on hourly if the shop is really, really slow. Right? Even if it's a high commission, the higher end of this range, 80% of zero is zero. So you want to make sure if you're going to take this risk of going to a pure commission-based shop where there's no hourly, then it better be really, really busy, right? Because otherwise you might make more money over here. And then if you're talking to an hourly owner, you want to figure out what's the rate. But most importantly, I think if you're going here, then what's included in that? Are you getting training? Are you getting mentorship? Are you getting a regular flow of clients so that you can dial in your skills? And so I think if you're going here, then this is the most important question. is like, what am I going to learn while I'm there? And it's not necessarily for new barbers either. It could just be like, maybe you're new to the city, that area. So starting here might be a good idea because you're going to have that guaranteed rate. So especially if you have a family, if you have kids, you really need to count on that same paycheck every single week, then you definitely want to consider over here. Our structure at our shop is actually a combination of these two. So our barbers all have a base rate, and then if they hit a certain point in sales, then it switches to commission-based. So that way they know when they start with us that it'll never be less than whatever their rate is, but if they do high enough sales, it switches to here. And they're employees, so they also get the benefits. But keep in mind, like I mentioned earlier, that you will probably not find a barbershop that is both paying high commission and giving you benefits just because the math doesn't work. It literally does not work. It's very difficult to pay somebody a high commission and also have enough money left over to pay their taxes and to also offer benefits. The math just doesn't work, right? So if you're getting these things, then you're probably going to be on the lower end of pay structure of the percentage scale, right? Because there needs to be money left over for the barbershop owner to actually pay the bills, right? Because this is just what you get. What a lot of people don't consider is that there's got to be something left over for the shop to run, to pay for the marketing, to pay for all the supplies. So you'll probably not find too many places that are going higher than this, especially if you're an employee who is also getting benefits. These are actually all break down to basically the same thing, which is what are you making per hour or sales per hour? That's ultimately what it comes down to. And whatever, this is going to affect everything. No matter what structure you're on, it's going to affect how much you make. And the main difference between these two is how much of your pay is variable. So if you're hourly, then there still is some variable aspect to what you make because you're earning tips and you might earn commission on products or services. So it's just that less of your pay is variable. Whereas this, 100% of your pay might be variable, as well as over here, but here it's possible to go negative. So what does this look like? So if you're on hourly, then it might look like this. So you're at $15 an hour, and then you do a haircut. So it goes up, and then you have a slow time, and then you do another haircut, and then it goes down. So these little peaks are, let's say, tips and commissions, but it'll never go below $15 an hour or whatever your rate is because you're an employee and you have to get paid for every hour you're there. Whereas a commission-based shop, I'm going to do it in black, your rate might be 0 if you don't do a haircut. And then you do a haircut, right? So maybe you get up here, then it goes back down, and then you have a dead time, then you do another haircut. Then it goes back down. Then you have a slow time. And then maybe you have a really busy day and it looks like this. So hopefully that's making sense. So with commission, it starts at 0. Your hourly rate is 0 unless you do a haircut. And then finally, with booth rent, I'm going to do this one in purple. I'm going to do like negative 15. So with booth rent, you're actually starting negative, right? You guys can't even see that, can you? So with booth rent, you're actually starting negative because you have these fixed costs. And then you do a haircut, right? So it goes up here, and then you go back down. And then you do another haircut, and it goes up here, and it goes back down. And then it just does this, right? But as you can see, the pattern, because of the nature of what we do, and we get paid in some form usually for every haircut we do, is that some version of your pay is going to be variable. And the question is which one of these do you want to deal with? Do you want to have that baseline where it never goes below a certain point? Are you okay with potentially making nothing with having a little bit of higher earning potential being pure commission? Or are you willing to take the risk and potentially go negative and have almost unlimited earning potential being on booth rent? And you also have the control as well. So you can always make as much as you want basically on booth rent, you can honestly make as much as you want on commission and hourly too. You are really counting on the owner to make that happen, right? Because you don't have usually control over timing and pricing when you are on one of these structures. But that's the really important point I wanted to make when it comes to these is like it's all based on sales per hour, and there's going to be some variable aspect to your pay if you're a barber. The question is how much does it vary? And if you are on booth rent or commission, it varies a lot. And if you're on hourly, it doesn't vary as much and it will never be zero. So now I'm talking to the barbershop owners. If you're wondering which structure to go with, it depends on your skill as a barbershop owner, because I can tell you from personal experience, these two are way, way harder to manage than this one over here. So if you don't know how to manage employees, or if you don't want to, then you may just want to do this, because this is about the simplest business model possible, right? But if you're willing to learn the skills and take the risk, then you may want to go with one of these. You also want to keep in mind that the behavior and the culture of the business that you want could be determined based on the decision you make on which route you want to go, right? So what do I mean by that? So if you have hourly employees, then sometimes you have to deal with hourly employee behavior, which means you have to worry about them stealing time, basically just clocking in and then just going and sitting in their car, or just basically sitting around in the shop not doing anything. And then if you have commission, one of the cons of that is that basically if you think about it, you're rewarding barbers being fast, so that you may have to deal with barbers that are just cutting too fast because they're just trying to make money in short term. Short term, that's great, but long term, it's going to hurt you because clients ultimately come back based on having a good experience. And if the barbers are just rushing clients in and out, then that's one of the cons of this structure here. So hourly creates a little bit more of a team environment in my experience, because if somebody's getting paid regardless of whether they're cutting hair or not, they're a lot more likely to help their team out, right? Because they know I'm getting paid no matter while I'm here, so if you have the right person, hopefully they're gonna help contribute during their whole time there. Commission, that's a little bit harder to do because they're not getting paid for all the other things, so they're less likely to show up early to help their team out. Does that still happen? Yeah, of course. And that can also happen over here, but just keep in mind that they're not incentivized to help their team out. Everybody's running their own business over here. So it really depends on what you want. If you want simplicity, this is the way to go, but it also has the less potential for profit because your business is going to be capped. You will not be able to make more money unless you raise the chair rental or open more locations. Where here, there's almost unlimited earning potential when it comes to these, with the downside of commission is that your payroll cost is variable. So even if you raise prices, yes, you will make more, but that percentage that goes out to the barbers is still going to be the same. This is why if you have 10% profit margin and you raise your price, but the barbers are on commission, your profit margin is still going to be 10%. But 10% of 150 grand is a lot more than 10% of 100 grand. So just keep that in mind with commission, is that your payroll is always going to go up with revenue. And then with hourly, it actually can be the payroll cost is relatively fixed. So you can raise your price, and it instantly creates more profit in a business when it's hourly because the payroll cost is now fixed. So if your payroll cost is $50,000 a month and you raise prices next month, well, the payroll's still $50,000, but you're making more money. So all that just goes straight to the bottom line. So those are some important things to consider if you're an owner and if you're a barber about booth rent, commission, and hourly. So hopefully you found this video helpful. See you in the next one.